chosen one. Heaven has paused everything else, so you can hear this. Now, there is no coincidence in the divine-only confirmation. You didn't scroll here by mistake. This is not just another message, it's a holy moment. God has called you by name. And this time, He's not just sending a word, He's sending provision. The lack is over. The wait is over. The drought has broken. You've stepped into the season of divine funding. You've cried behind closed doors. You've made it look easy when it was anything but. You've carried burdens in silence, sacrificed quietly, and endured what others would have folded under. Yet here you are still standing, still believing, still hoping. That kind of faith doesn't go unnoticed. And now, heaven is responding. God is not just funding your needs. He is funding your calling. He is financing your purpose. You didn't survive just to survive again. You didn't endure just to break even. This next season isn't about scraping by. It's about overflow. He's not dropping crumbs. He's opening floodgates. The poverty mindset is being broken right now. The orphan spirit is being healed right now. Heaven is declaring you have a provider who sees, who knows, and who acts. The voice of lack has lied to you for too long. It told you you're not worthy. It told you to settle. It convinced you to accept delay as denial. But that voice is being silenced now, because the voice of the Lord is thundering something different over your life. Provision has arrived. Listen carefully. Chosen one, you will no longer strive for what God is ready to give. You will no longer beg for what's already yours by inheritance. You are a child of the Most High, not a spiritual beggar in the street. There is a royal bloodline in your veins, and that bloodline comes with access. It comes with favor. It comes with divine backing that no man, no system, no demon can block. The devil tried to make you believe you'd always be behind, that your destiny would be capped by your bank account, that your calling would be limited by your credit score. But the enemy forgot one crucial thing. You're not funded by man. You're funded by God. What God is about to release will have no logical explanation. You will not be able to trace it back to your degree, your network, or your hustle, because this kind of provision is not from earth. This is heaven's funding, supernatural supply, uncommon favor, unpredictable blessing. It will chase you down, and it will not require you to compromise your soul to receive it. You've waited. You've worshipped while waiting. And now, your waiting has become a weapon. The enemy thought your delay was a sign of abandonment, but heaven calls it preparation. You're not late. You're right on time. God didn't forget. He hid you, protected you, and now He's revealing what was reserved for you. There are mantles attached to this moment. Some of you are about to step into ideas, businesses, movements that were too big to fund with natural means. God knew that. That's why He allowed the delay. So when the door opens, it will be obvious it was Him, not you, not luck, Him. And to those who say, "But I've lost too much," let me tell you this: nothing was wasted. Every denied application, every overdraft notice, every cancelled plan, it was all part of the story that's about to make your testimony thunder through generations. They will ask how you got here, and you will say, "God funded me." That's it. That's all. And that will be enough. Scripture says in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 33, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And all these things will be added unto you. You sought him. You didn't chase the bag, you chased his heart. And now the bag is chasing you. You remained faithful when it didn't make sense. And that faith is opening vaults in heaven. This word isn't for everyone. But if your spirit just jumped inside your chest, it's for you. You didn't quit when giving up felt easier. You didn't curse God when doors slammed shut. Instead, you worshipped in the hallway. And now, heaven is honoring your endurance. Divine funding is not coming, it's here. Lift your eyes. Wipe your tears. God is not just meeting your needs. He is exceeding them. Don't ignore this moment. Type 555" the comments if your spirit bears witness that this word has located you. Let it be a prophetic declaration. Grace has found me. Funding is flowing. Favor is here. You've carried the weight alone too long. You didn't tell anyone how heavy it got. You smiled while your soul was grinding through invisible wars. You got up every day and moved forward when everything in you wanted to stay down. No one knew how many times you were barely holding it together. They saw strength, but they didn't see the shaking hands behind it. They praised your stability, but they didn't see the silent screams at night. But God saw every time you gave when you barely had enough. Every time you encouraged others while you yourself felt empty. Every time you made something out of nothing. The world may have ignored your sacrifice, but heaven recorded it. It was never missed. It was never forgotten. God watched you choose faith in famine. You turned down shortcuts that would have compromised your soul. You refused to manipulate your way into rooms because you trusted him to open the right ones. That kind of obedience is rare, and rare obedience draws uncommon favor. The kind of favor that is no longer delayed. This is why the weight is breaking now. It's not that the battle was too big, it's that your season has shifted. The burden isn't being removed because you complained. It's being lifted because the purpose for it has been fulfilled. God allowed it to stretch you, to strengthen you, to strip you of false dependencies. You had to walk through a season where no one could rescue you, because God didn't want a human solution. He wanted you to know he was your source. You were never meant to carry it forever. You were only meant to carry it until it turned into oil. That crushing, that pressure, that was oil coming from your life. Oil that will heal others. Oil that will anoint the next generation. Oil that came from your secret place. That's why you couldn't explain it to others. They weren't meant to understand it, they were meant to receive from it. It's been a lonely road, hasn't it? Sometimes you looked around and wondered, why me? Why did others seem to have support while you were building with bare hands and bruised knees? Why did others rise while you remained hidden? The answer is simple. God set you apart to raise you up differently. He didn't want you depending on applause. He didn't want you sustained by popularity. He wanted your roots to go deep in him, because what he's building through you cannot be blown over by storms or shaken by critics. You had to be anchored first, and anchors are forged in obscurity. You're not behind, you're becoming. Let that settle in your spirit. Every season of isolation was divine investment. Every no was protection. Every delay was a setup. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared. That's why certain doors didn't open. That's why certain people walked away. That's why things took longer than you expected. It wasn't punishment, it was precision. And now the season of wait is shifting into the season of release. The burden is being turned into a blessing. You've proven trustworthy with the little. Now God can trust you with more. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 30, verse 5. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Your morning has come. Chosen one. You don't have to carry survival mode into this next chapter. God is rewriting the rhythm of your life. He's silencing the old voices that whispered fear and lack into your soul. You won't need to hoard, hide, or hustle in this new season. You will flow. You will flourish. You will fund others the way no one funded you. Not out of bitterness, but out of overflow. You are stepping into the kind of season where the miracles feel personal, where the provision is on time, where the people assigned to your destiny finally find you, where what was heavy becomes holy. This is not just a season change, it's an identity shift. You are no longer just a survivor. You are a steward of abundance. Heaven trusted you with struggle now. It's trusting you with strength. Don't apologize for how God is about to bless you. Don't shrink to fit old rooms. Don't explain away your anointing. You paid a price no one saw. Now comes the portion no one can block. You've carried the weight alone too long. Now watch how God carries you. Lack was never your portion. Chosen one. Somewhere along the way, you were convinced that struggle was normal. That barely getting by meant you were being humble. That lack somehow made you more spiritual. But that is not what heaven has spoken over you. That is not what the word declares. And that is not your covenant. You were not born to survive. You were born to steward. You were not called to scrape through life. You were called to carry glory. There is nothing holy about lack. There is nothing sacred about spiritual or financial starvation. God did not design you to live on crumbs when He has set a table before you. You've been lied to. The lie said you had to earn what God already assigned. The lie said your worth was tied to your wallet. The lie said if you were struggling, it meant God was distant. But heaven is here to shatter the lie today, because what you're stepping into is proof that God was never absent. He was watching and waiting for your heart to be ready, waiting for your spirit to mature, waiting for your faith to stabilize. And now the vaults are opening. You need to understand, lack is not your destiny. It was your classroom. It taught you who your source was. It trained your ears to hear God, not man. It refined your motives, purified your desire, and stripped away pride. Lack shaped your character, not your calling. It prepared you, but it was never meant to define you. The days of stretching pennies, ignoring dreams, and shrinking your faith are over. You are entering a space where divine funding will meet divine assignment, where provision will chase vision, where heaven will back what God put in your hands to build. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 9, verse 8, "And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work." And not just barely enough, not just scraps, not just get by until Friday. God says abundantly, so you can abound in every good work. If your calling is big, your provision will be bigger. If your assignment is heavy, your support will be heavenly. Some of you have been afraid to dream because money felt like a wall. You've looked at your calling and said, "But how?" You saw the vision, but the funds didn't match, so you postponed it. downsized it. Let it collect dust in the corner of your spirit. But hear this, your obedience will never be unfunded. God would not give you a vision and leave you empty-handed. He funds what He forms. He provides for what He commands. It may not come when you want it, or in the package you expect, but it will come. And when it does, it will make sense. You'll look back and understand why. He said no to the earlier funding options because they came with strings that would have strangled your freedom. You're not meant to beg for what God already wrote into your purpose. He's not just providing money, He's providing wisdom, strategi, discernment, open doors, aligned people, and divine timing. Let that build in your spirit, because when this provision comes, you won't be caught off guard. You'll recognize it. You'll move with precision. You'll know how to steward it because lack trained you not to waste. You'll know how to multiply it because your wilderness taught you how to stretch. And you'll know how to release it because your suffering taught you compassion. This is how God turns your pain into provision for you and for others. So when the funding flows, don't hoard it. Don't fear losing it. Don't let a poverty mindset block a promised land blessing. You are not a slave anymore. You are not an outsider at the table. You are not a charity case. You are a co-heir with Christ. You are an ambassador of the kingdom, and heaven takes care of its own. This isn't prosperity preaching, it's prophetic alignment. And it's time you stop apologizing for stepping into what has always been yours. Comment, lack ends now. Let that be your declaration. Let that be your prophetic act. 3 simple words. But they carry the power to shift your atmosphere. When you type it, you're not just engaging with a message, you're making an announcement to every demonic force that's tried to limit your flow. You're telling the spirit of scarcity that its lease is up. You're saying to your soul, I agree with God. Heaven has never been broke. And as His child, neither will you be. The prophetic wealth transfer begins now. Chosen one. Whether you realize it or not, there's been a shift in the unseen realm. Quiet, but undeniable. Invisible, but irreversible. The scales are tipping. The records are being reconciled. There is a divine reversal unfolding. What was withheld is being released. What was blocked is being cleared. And what the enemy stored up for evil is being redirected by the hand of heaven. You may not have physical evidence yet, but trust this. The transaction has already been approved in the Spirit. This is not just about money. This is about divine justice. God is not reacting to the economy. He is not limited by inflation, government policy, or man-made restriction. He is responding to the alignment of His chosen ones. There is a prophetic economy at work, one that operates by obedience, not by interest rates, one that rewards faithfulness, not fame, one that is governed by covenant, not cash flow. For years, the wicked have built empires on stolen principles. They've mocked the sacred. They've profited from manipulation. They've increased in wealth while silencing the voices of the righteous. But God does not forget. He does not overlook. He has allowed their towers to rise, but not to reign. He let them store it up for you. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Proverbs, chapter 13, verse 22. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. That's not a metaphor. That's a principle. And right now, that principle is being activated. There is a spiritual transfer underway. not through theft, not through schemes, but through divine rerouting. God is raising up people who can be trusted with wealth because they've been crushed without it. He is positioning those who did not sell their soul in the drought to carry the overflow in the rain. This is not for the greedy, it's for the prepared. You've endured the furnace of obscurity. You've worked with integrity when no one was watching. You didn't cut corners. You didn't manipulate systems. You honored God when it cost you. And now, the reward is being released, not as compensation for suffering, but as fuel for assignment. This wealth is coming with purpose attached. Some of it will come through sudden opportunity, unexpected favor, divine partnerships, open doors that were previously shut, business ideas that suddenly catch fire, lands, properties, and contracts that move into your hands faster than logic would allow. Others will receive it through long-awaited justice court cases, settling lost inheritances, recovered, stolen values restored. But however it comes, know this, it is not random. It is not luck. It is prophetic fulfillment. Your obedience has caught up with your moment. Do not be surprised when systems start shaking. Do not panic when financial markets fluctuate. While the world sees crisis, heaven sees redistribution, and those positioned with clean hands and pure hearts will not just survive it, they will lead in it. This is why God has been dealing with your heart. This is why you went through the stripping, why certain things were denied, why some connections dried up. It wasn't punishment, it was protection. He was removing anything that could corrupt the wealth he planned to entrust to you. Because prophetic provision without purification becomes poison. And God's intent is to multiply through you, not watch you be devoured by what you're given. Chosen one, you're not just being resourced, you're being entrusted. That's why this moment carries weight. You're standing on the edge of fulfillment, not fantasy. And the enemy knows it. That's why the warfare has been so intense lately. That's why distractions multiplied. Why fear tried to creep back in. Because he knows what's about to change. He knows what happens when the righteous get resourced. Ministries will be born. Families will be restored. Communities will be rebuilt. Orphans will be adopted. Justice will be financed. Kingdom structures will rise where ruins once stood. This is not about riches, it's about righteousness. God is shifting supply lines so that those who carry his heart can carry his provision. You don't have to chase it. It's finding you. You don't have to force it. It's flowing now, like rivers in the desert, like manna in the wilderness. What's been stored is being sent. What's been held up is being loosed. And the ones who were once overlooked will become the very vessels through which heaven pours. This isn't just your breakthrough. It's your becoming. You were trained in lack, but you'll be trusted with legacy. What was taken in secret will be returned in public, not for your glory, but for God's name to be magnified through your testimony. The prophetic wealth transfer has begun. Stay in position. Stay in obedience. Stay in awe. Heaven funds vision, not comfort. God's chosen one. Let this truth anchor deep into your spirit. God never pours into what is idle. He funds what moves. He backs what builds. He invests where purpose is alive. If you've ever wondered why provision seemed delayed, it's not because God ignored your needs, it's because he was waiting for your vision to rise. You were never called to live a small life. You were never designed to chase comfort, settle into routines. and coast through your days. There is a mission locked inside of you, a divine assignment that only you can carry. That calling is why you've faced pressure. That vision is why you've been preserved through storms that should have destroyed you. You've been dreaming, planning, preparing, and at times, doubting. But God is not funding your comfort zone. He is funding your calling. Heaven isn't resourcing you just so you can breathe easier. It's backing you so that others can breathe at all. Your vision is someone else's breakthrough. Your obedience is someone else's miracle. Heaven does not waste wealth. God doesn't release increase where there is no intention to multiply. And you've proven your heart is aligned. You've proven that when God gives, you will not hoard. You'll build, you'll plant, you'll release, you'll obey. Some of you have been sitting on blueprints from heaven, dreams that scared you, visions that felt too big for your current life. But those were not fantasies. They were previews. And now, provision is catching up to your preparation. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Habakkuk. Chapter 2, verse 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak, and not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Yeah, you were never lacking vision. You were waiting on the timing, and now, the timing is now. There are ideas in your notebook that heaven is breathing on. There are ministries you wrote down and forgot about that angels have not forgotten. There are songs, books, outreach, inventions, solutions stored inside of you that the world needs. And God is funding. You may say, but I don't have the audience, or I don't have the skills, or I don't have the connections. But let me tell you what you do have: God's yes. And when God says yes, no platform, no person, no algorithm, and no gatekeeper can say no. Provision follows movement. So, move. Even if it's one step, one act of obedience, one yes that feels risky, because that's what heaven responds to. It's not the size of your gift, it's the size of your obedience. And your willingness to act on what you know God has shown you is the greatest signal of readiness. You've waited long enough. Now walk into it. If this word is finding you exactly where you are, if it's confirming what God has already been stirring in your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Like it, share it, subscribe, so you don't miss what heaven continues to pour out. You never know who's on the edge of giving up. And your obedience to share may be the spark they need to keep going. This isn't just content, it's confirmation. It's not just a video, it's a visitation. Chosen one. You are not being blessed for luxury. You are being equipped for legacy. This is not about materialism. This is about movement. And you are part of it. There is a reason God didn't fund you when you wanted it. You weren't ready to build. You were still thinking in terms of escape, not expansion. But now your heart has shifted. Now your language has changed. You no longer ask God just to bless you, you ask Him to use you. And that is the posture that attracts heaven's funding. You are moving from idea to implementation, from vision to visibility, from hidden to held up. God is positioning you where your voice will carry weight and your influence will break chains. Not because you tried to go viral, but because you carried something vital. Let this next season be marked by bold obedience. Do it afraid if you have to. Launch what's in your heart. Write it, speak it, Build it. Heaven has already approved the grant. And don't be surprised when provision shows up wrapped in unusual packages, divine connections, mentorships, unexpected income, random favor. God is creative with his delivery, but exact in his timing. Your comfort may be threatened, but your calling is being funded. Don't hesitate. God's not waiting for perfection. He's waiting for your yes. Because when heaven funds vision, it does so with acceleration, anointing, and authority. And those three are about to collide in your life. So breathe deep, step forward, and trust this. God doesn't fund fantasy. He funds fulfillment. Chosen one. You've made it this far because you didn't break. You didn't bend to the pressure, even when it felt unbearable. And heaven took note of that. You are not just favored, you are trusted. Trusted with pain, trusted with silence, trusted with the kind of process that most would have quit halfway through. And now, something is unlocking in your life that can no longer be delayed. Heaven is funding you now not just because you asked, but because your endurance demanded it. You've endured more than most people know. You've battled in secret, warred in prayer, and stayed the course when others detoured. This makes you dangerous to darkness, not because you're loud, but because you're consistent, not because you're perfect, but because you're faithful. You are the kind of person God releases provision through because he knows you'll do the right thing with it. Your obedience under pressure has become a signal in the spirit, a beacon that says, "This one is ready." And you could have cursed God in the drought. You didn't. You could have taken shortcuts to get ahead. You didn't. You could have settled for less than what was promised. You refused. And now, the windows of heaven are opening. Not a drizzle, an outpouring. Not just supply strategy. Because God is not just throwing blessings at you randomly, he is building you into a distributor of his resources. What's coming into your life is connected to lives beyond your own. That's why the release is weighty. It's not just about you anymore. The Spirit of God is hovering over what you almost gave up on. There were things you started and stopped. Things you were once passionate about that got buried under the weight of daily survival. But even when you let go, heaven didn't. God held your blueprints. He kept your plans in his archive. And now, he's blowing breath on them again. He's saying, try again. This time, with funding. We find in the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 19, "And my God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus." Not some of your need, not a portion, not just emotional comfort while you suffer financially. The word says all. This is the kind of supply that doesn't just sustain, it expands, it lifts, it multiplies. And it's not coming from limited earthly systems. It's coming from his riches in glory. That means it's beyond recession, beyond layoffs, beyond market fluctuations, beyond the opinions of gatekeepers. God is about to show you that he is not limited by time or economy. What you thought would take 10 years will happen in one. What you thought required permission will happen by favor. You're not entering this new season through a back door. You're being invited in. Because when heaven funds a chosen one, it does so with evidence. People won't be able to deny it. Even your enemies will have to admit this was the hand of God. And you won't be the only one who feels the shift. Your children will feel it. Your bloodline will feel it. Your community will feel it. What's being released through you is going to shake stagnation out of every room you step into. Your testimony will carry weight. Your words will stir faith. Your generosity will restore hope. You are not just a receiver, you are a releaser. But here's what you must remember. This provision is not a reward. It's a responsibility. It comes with assignment. It comes with stewardship. And it comes with continual obedience. So stay submitted. Stay surrendered. Keep your heart clean. Keep your motives pure. And God will continue to pour. If this word is speaking directly to your spirit, if you feel the weight of confirmation wrapping around you as you read, then respond not with emotion, but with prophetic agreement. Comment 444. Not just to engage, but to activate. 444 symbolizes divine order and angelic movement. It's a number of alignment, of heaven stepping into earth's affairs to bring structure and clarity. When you comment 444, you're declaring, my house will be in order. My life will be aligned. God's plan will unfold, and I will not resist it. No, it's not about hype. It's about heaven. This is the moment everything begins to flow differently. Resources, relationships, revelations. You've moved from wandering to walking in promise. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are positioned. And when you're in position, funding will find you. Doors money can't buy will open. Chosen one. Understand this truth. Some doors in life are not purchased, negotiated, or earned by effort. They are opened by favor, divine power. And that favor is on your life right now in a way you've never experienced before. God is about to take you places your resume can't explain. He is unlocking rooms where your name has been mentioned, even though you weren't in the conversation. For years, you've watched others gain access through connections, manipulation, or compromise. You saw doors open for people who didn't serve with integrity, who didn't carry vision, who seemed to skip lines. You kept your head down. You stayed pure. And now, heaven is bringing its own key. God doesn't use the same keys as man. He doesn't need credentials to open gates. He doesn't need approvals to shift status. When he says it's your time, no one can say otherwise. When he marks a door for you, it doesn't matter who tries to lock it. He has the master key. And here's what's even more powerful. These doors are not small. They are significant. They are doors of impact, influence, and intercession. Places where your voice will be heard. Tables where your presence will matter. Environments where your anointing will shift atmospheres. Chosen one. This is not about elevation for the sake of ego. It's about access for the sake of assignment. You've been tested in the hallway. You've praised with no promise. You've obeyed when there was no visible reward. You've stayed when walking away would have been easier. And that's why this kind of access is being granted. Because you didn't chase clout, you chased the kingdom. There are things about your calling that cannot be fulfilled in isolation. That's why the doors are opening now. You've been developed in private. Now God is assigning you to be visible, but not for attention, for impact. You're not just walking into favor, you're walking into responsibility. You don't need to worry about how the doors will open. Your job is not to manipulate access. Your job is to be ready when they swing wide. You'll know the door is from God because it won't require you to shrink. You won't have to compromise your values. You won't need to pretend. You won't need to fit in. The room will be uncomfortable at first, but your anointing will do what it's always done. It will make space for you. You will not enter feeling like an imposter. You will walk in like a representative of heaven, because that's what you are. Some doors are opening simply because you endured. You've suffered with grace. You've sown when you barely had enough. You've been faithful in obscurity. And now, those seeds are maturing into harvest. And that harvest is not just in money, it's in movement. Favor that makes phone calls come out of nowhere. Invitations you didn't ask for. Meetings that shift everything. And peace that settles over you when you walk into places others panic to stand in. God is setting a table for you in the presence of those who once overlooked you, not to embarrass them, but to honor you. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 23, verse 5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. And that's not poetic, it's prophetic. Your table has already been set. Your oil has already been selected. And your overflow is already in motion. God is not just opening one door, He's opening the right door. The kind that leads to generational impact. The kind that only opens for the faithful. The kind that does more than bless you, it positions you. Let this truth settle in. There is nothing you missed, nothing you lost, nothing you were excluded from that heaven still intends for your life. If a door closed, it was protection. If it stayed shut, it wasn't the one. Because what God opens, no one can shut. And what He shuts, no one can open. You will not have to knock twice. The next door will recognize you. Not because of fame, not because of followers, but because of favor. And that favor isn't fair, it's faithful. So rest. Don't scramble. Don't compete. Don't perform. Stay pure. Stay focused. Stay positioned. God is not finished showing you how powerful obedience is. The right doors are not found, they are revealed. And yours are opening now. You've been faithful with little, chosen one. God saw what others missed. The small yeses, the quiet sacrifices, the hidden disciplines, the moments when you chose integrity over opportunity, the nights when you gave thanks with an empty account, the mornings you showed up even when no one clapped. You didn't just survive the valley, you served in it. And that matters more than you know. Heaven does not measure success the way man does. God does not overlook the obedience that happens behind closed doors. In fact, those are the moments He counts most. The small, unseen, uncelebrated ones. Because it's in the little that the foundation of greatness is laid. It's in the unseen that God decides who He can trust in the light. You didn't complain when you could have. You didn't quit when it got tight. You didn't allow bitterness to rot your obedience. And now, you are stepping into the fruit of that unseen faithfulness. This is more than a promotion. It's a divine endorsement. The process was never meant to punish you. It was meant to prove you. Not to God, He already knew your heart, but to you. You needed to see what kind of endurance lived inside of you. You needed to know how deeply your roots were planted. And now that the testing is giving way to transition, you can move forward with confidence. You've proven that you can be trusted with more because you honored the little. You tithed when it hurt. You gave when it made no sense. You served when you were tired. You sowed seeds that looked invisible but were never ignored. And now, the harvest is not just coming, it's assigned. Not random, not If it's God's will, it is His will, and it's already in motion. According to what is revealed in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 16, verse 10, whoever is faithful with very little will also be faithful with much. And what? That's you. You were faithful with the very little, the temporary position, the small platform, the quiet influence, the part-time income. You didn't despise the small things, you developed them. You watered them, and you waited patiently while God watched. What others called not enough, heaven called just right. The exact amount needed to train your hands for war, the perfect environment for humility, the proving ground for your character. Every moment mattered. And now, that preparation is about to speak for itself. You are not stepping into this next season as a beginner, you're stepping in proven. God doesn't elevate people based on potential. He elevates them based on faithfulness. Potential draws attention, but faithfulness draws trust. And that's what you have now, God's trust. That's why the increase will not come with sorrow. That's why the next level won't crush you, because your soul is anchored. You've been tested, pressed, and purified. You don't serve for approval anymore. You don't give to be seen. You don't obey for applause. You do it because you love God, and you know who you are, and that makes you dangerous. You're the kind of person who can be given influence without being controlled by it. You can be blessed and still be humble. You can be promoted and still walk with purity. That's rare. That's holy. And that's what qualifies you for what's next. The enemy thought he had you in the season of little. He thought delay would break your faith. He hoped lack would make you bitter. But instead, it deepened your prayer life. It sharpened your discernment. It strengthened your worship. You didn't break, you became. And now, the tables are turning. The little that you were faithful with is about to become the launchpad for multiplication. The hours you spent building in secret will now yield visible results, and it will be clear to everyone around you. This is the reward of the faithful, not because you were perfect, but because you kept showing up. God doesn't need perfect vessels. He needs willing ones. And you were willing when no one else was. That's why this moment isn't a coincidence, it's a confirmation. So, keep your heart steady. Keep your hands clean. Keep your motives pure. Because what's coming isn't just for you. It's for the people who will be fed from what you carried when you had little. You've been faithful with little. Now get ready. Because much is being placed in your hands. The fact that you're still here is proof of calling. You didn't just stumble into your strength. It was forged in fire, built in silence, formed in rejection. And now, as the spiritual warfare intensifies around your life, you need to understand, this pressure is not punishment, it's proof. You are dangerous to the enemy. Not because of what you own, but because of what you carry. The warfare around your finances was never about dollars. It was about destiny. The enemy doesn't fight what doesn't threaten him. He doesn't bother those who pose no risk. But you have always been a problem for darkness. Your faith rattles the gates of hell. Your consistency frustrates demonic assignments. Your generosity tears down the spirit of greed. Your ability to trust God in the wilderness has been a declaration in the spirit. This one cannot be bought. So the enemy tried to wear you down. He hit your finances not just to block provision, but to provoke discouragement. He whispered lies that said you were forgotten. He stirred confusion in your plans. He sent delay after delay, not because God wasn't moving, but because hell was afraid of what you'd do if funding reached you. Because here's the truth. Your calling requires resources. Your purpose isn't cheap. Your assignment is costly. And the enemy knew that once you were funded, you would become uncontainable. Your calling is meant to rebuild ruins. It's designed to reverse curses. And that kind of calling attracts resistance. Not because you're wrong, but because you're right on time. You've probably noticed it by now, the pattern. Every time you're about to launch, there's a hit to your finances. Every time you get clarity, chaos shows up in your money. But what you may not have realized is that it's spiritual. The battle has never just been natural. The attack on your wallet was always a war on your worship. But God is speaking something different now. The pattern is breaking. The cycle of lack, the repeated emergency, the financial anxiety, the false starts, the constant resets. All of it ends here. Because what the enemy tried to use to bury you, God is now using to build you. Your spiritual authority is growing because you refused to bow to fear. You refused to sell out. You didn't give up when it got tight. Now, you're becoming a threat. The voice of God thunders in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 8, verse 18. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth and confirms His covenant. Did you catch that? Wealth confirms covenant. In other words, the very thing the enemy tried to block is the very thing that reveals you've been chosen. You're not just supposed to receive provision, you're supposed to produce it. You're not a victim of economy. You're not subject to financial statistics. You are in covenant with a God who gives power to produce. This means the enemy wasn't just attacking your present. He was terrified of your future. He saw the churches you would build, the families you would rescue, the outreaches you would fund, the chains you would break, not just spiritually, but economically. You are called to be a kingdom financier, and the enemy knew it before you did. That's why the attack felt so personal, because it was. But what the enemy failed to realize is that your anointing grows under pressure. Your oil multiplies in warfare. Your purpose becomes clearer when you are pressed. And now, there is nothing he can do to stop what's coming, because you didn't fold. You didn't curse God. You didn't sell your future for temporary comfort. You chose obedience. You chose honor. You chose to believe even when the math didn't make sense. And now the war has backfired. What was meant to break you has built you. You no longer fear financial lack because you know your source. You no longer panic over provision because you understand your positioning. You are no longer begging for doors to open. You are commanding them to align with divine timing. You've become exactly what the enemy feared, unshakable. So if this word is hitting you deep, if your spirit feels like it's being called out by name, don't just feel it. Declare it. Comment, I will obey. 3 words. Simple, but dangerous to the enemy. When you type it, you're not just interacting, you're agreeing. You're telling every voice of fear, doubt, and discouragement, I won't shrink back. I will follow through. I am who God says I am. The warfare around your finances was the enemy's last attempt, and now the tables are turning, because obedience always wins. There are moments in your journey when alignment matters more than anything else. This is one of those moments. Chosen one. You've made it through the storm. You've walked through financial drought. spiritual warfare, emotional exhaustion. And yet you're still here, still listening, still hungry for truth. And that tells me something. You are not an ordinary soul. You are part of a remnant, a rising, a company of chosen ones whom God is positioning for influence, stewardship, and supernatural resource. But here's the truth, most won't tell you. To stay in the flow of heaven's provision, you must remain in alignment with heaven's instruction. It's not about striving, it's about staying connected. You see, God's provision flows like a river, strong, steady, and directed. The moment you disconnect from the source, the stream slows. But when you stay close, obedient, attentive, that river becomes a flood, not a chaotic one, but a divine one, calculated, intentional, miraculous. What you're receiving now isn't just a blessing, it's a blueprint. And staying connected to what heaven is releasing is key. The strategies, the words, the divine timing, none of it is random. These messages aren't just feel-good encouragements. They are marching orders. They are divine downloads to align your steps, posture your heart, and unlock the next level of favor. That's why now, more than ever, you need to stay in tune with this flow. If you haven't already, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Not just for you, but for the ones connected to your obedience. Because this isn't just about consuming a message, it's about stewarding a movement. You've stepped into a divine timeline, a supernatural schedule where things that once took years will take months, where what seemed locked will suddenly swing open, where closed heavens will pour rain without warning, but only for the aligned. Only for the ones who choose to stay close to the voice of God. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 1, verse 19, "If you are willing and obedient, you will eat the good of the land. Not if you are loud, not if you are popular. If you are willing and obedient, you have already proven your willingness. That's why you're here." Now comes the next level, staying obedient in abundance, because abundance brings its own test. When you've known survival for so long, comfort can make you forget who your source is. Blessing can make you lazy. Provision can make you proud. But not you, not this time. You've been through too much. You've come too far. You know what it costs to get here. And you won't lose it by falling asleep in the harvest. This next season will require focus. You're going to feel the tug of distraction, the temptation to compromise, the pressure to conform, but stay grounded, stay humble, stay teachable. The same God who brought you here is the same God who will carry you forward if you keep listening. That's why staying connected matters. Messages like this aren't just encouragement, they are lifelines, kingdom instruction, prophetic insight to keep your spirit sharp and your discernment strong. Don't treat them like background noise. Lean in, write them down, revisit them, speak them aloud, share them with others. Because when heaven sends a word, it's not just to inform you, it's to form you. You're being formed into a steward, a builder, a distributor of divine wealth and wisdom. This is no longer about just getting through life. This is about ruling in life, walking in the authority God already gave you, standing tall in rooms that used to intimidate you, owning the assignments you once felt unworthy of, not in pride but in purpose. You have heaven's attention. You have the oil of endurance. And now, you have the strategy for stewardship. What you do next matters. This is your moment to align completely, to root yourself in what's being released, to continue saying yes when it would be easier to retreat. Your future is not waiting for you to be perfect. It's waiting for you to be present, to respond, to engage, to believe. So again, if you haven't done it yet, take a moment, like this message, share it with someone who needs to hear. God is still speaking, and subscribe to stay locked into the flow. This isn't about numbers, it's about obedience. And if this has confirmed what God's already been whispering to you, then act on it. Because we're not building hype, we're building legacy. And chosen one, the foundation of that legacy is already under your feet. Stay in the flow. Stay in the fire. Stay in the faith. The battle around your finances was never just about money. It was about momentum. From the moment you said yes to your calling, the enemy launched a strategy against your forward motion. Not because you were weak, but because you were waking up. You were shifting from passivity to purpose, from survival to stewardship. And that shift shook something in the realm of darkness. You didn't notice it at first. You thought it was just bad timing, a delayed paycheck here, an unexpected bill there. But over time, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Every time you were about to step into something bigger, an opportunity, a decisión, an act of obedience, the same storm would rise. Finances would tighten, peace would slip, confusion would creep in. And now you see it clearly. It wasn't a coincidence. It was warfare. But what hell failed to understand is that your obedience doesn't come with a price tag. You don't serve God because it's convenient. You serve because you're called. You don't give when it's easy. You give when it's right. You didn't begin this journey for comfort. You began it for impact. That's why you're still standing. You've become too steady to be shaken, too faithful to be bribed, and too focused to be broken. What used to set you back now sets you up. What used to silence you now strengthens you. The enemy played his cards, and now he's out of moves. Chosen one, hear this in your spirit. You've outlasted the warfare. You're stepping into a stretch of life where resistance will no longer define your days. You'll still face battles, but not the kind that drain you to the bone. Not the kind that make you question your calling. You've matured. You've grown. And you've proven that even with limited resources, you never bowed to fear. This matters deeply to God, because heaven doesn't just release resources to the willing, it releases them to the ready. And readiness is not about perfection, it's about posture. You kept your hands clean. You stayed generous when it didn't make sense. You gave your last when others held back their first. You didn't just survive the test, you revealed your character through it. This is what God rewards. Not flashy performance. But qui est persévérance. The spiritual battle wasn't to rob you of money. It was to rob you of momentum. Because the enemy knows, when someone like you gets moving, things start changing. Bondages break. Families shift. Territories get claimed. And darkness has no answer for that kind of movement. That's why the attacks were personal. They targeted your peace, your confidence, your sense of direction. But you never lost your identity, even in confusion. You remembered your source, even in luck. You looked up. You didn't build altars to disappointment. You built faith under pressure. And that kind of faith moves heaven. You are now walking into the very thing the enemy feared. unstoppable progress. Not because everything is perfect, but because nothing can pull you out of position anymore. You've anchored your life in obedience, and obedience always bears fruit, even if it takes time. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 5, "If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing." You remained. You didn't chase shortcuts. You didn't detach when it got quiet. You didn't abandon the assignment when the numbers didn't add up. You stayed. And because of that, fruit is coming. Not just any fruit. Much fruit. Fruit that remains. Fruit that multiplies. Provision is now being released, not just to rescue you, but to accelerate you. What was held back is being released on a compressed timeline. Delays are turning into suddenlies. Doors that refused to open are now swinging wide, and where there used to be friction, now there is flow. You're no longer fighting to keep momentum. You're riding the wave of God's timing, and this wave won't crush you, it will carry you. Your role now is simple. Don't get distracted. Don't revert to old cycles. Don't let fear reattach itself just because the terrain is unfamiliar. You were built for this. You were forged for movement. And what used to take all your strength will now feel like grace in motion. God is making up for the lost time. But He's not just giving you what was delayed, He's giving you what was stored. Because obedience has a memory in heaven, and yours just reached maturity. You've entered a new era, not just a new day, not just a new season, an era, a divine cycle where the rules have shifted, the weight has lifted, and the struggle you once called normal is no longer authorized to follow you. You've stepped out of survival. You've exited delay. You've graduated from lack, and now the rhythm of your life is being rewritten. It's a reset, not just externally, but internally. Where fear once drove your decisions, now faith will lead. Where worry used to wake you up, now peace will carry you through. Where you once wondered if it would ever change, now you'll wonder how it changed so quickly. Because what God is doing in this hour is not slow, it's suddenly. You are entering the realm of prophetic provision. That means what took others years will take you months. What required loans for others will be handed to you as favor. What others fight to get, you'll flow into. Not because you're better, but because you're positioned. And positioning changes everything. You've been stretched, pressed, delayed, but never denied. You've watched others receive their yes, while you sat with another not yet. But those days are over. Not because your effort increased, but because your timing arrived. Chosen one. You are on time. This is the moment your heart has felt coming, even when your eyes saw no sign. The shift in your spirit, it was real. The stirring in your belly, it wasn't emotion. It was announcement. Heaven has been preparing you behind the scenes, while earth assumed you were finished. But what looked like silence was set up. What felt like rejection was redirection. And now, the curtain is being pulled back on your next chapter. A chapter funded by grace, accelerated by obedience, and filled with favor that has your name on it. We find in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, though it lingers. Wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." End of teen. What was appointed for you has now arrived. And with it comes an economic shift. not just for your pockets, but for your purpose. God isn't just giving you more, He's giving you different levels, different doors, different depths. And with that difference comes responsibility, stewardship, wisdom, sensitivity to divine instruction. Because provision without direction becomes distraction. But you're not receiving for distraction, you're receiving for deployment. This is why you couldn't stay in old mindsets. This is why you had to walk alone. Why certain people fell away. Why certain opportunities shut down. It wasn't sabotage. It was sifting. God was filtering your future through obedience, through patience, through humility. And now that the foundation is set, the building is beginning. What's coming isn't just restoration, it's multiplication. You're about to see a return on every tear sown in silence, every act of obedience that no one clapped for, every time you gave, served, obeyed, prayed, or forgave when you could have chosen the opposite. God has been watching, and heaven never forgets the offerings made in hidden places. You've been prepared for public blessing because you passed private tests. Now, the overflow won't be occasional. It will be your new normal. And it's not just financial, it's emotional overflow, creative overflow, relational overflow, spiritual overflow, ideas that come too fast for you to write down, connections that show up without you chasing, peace that makes no sense on paper, and provision that confirms God has remembered you. But this moment requires your agreement, not just your excitement, not just your feelings, your agreement. So if this word is speaking directly to your core, if it's wrapping around your situation like only truth can then activate it with a prophetic number, comment 1111. This isn't just digits. This is declaration. 1111 is a prophetic number symbolizing divine alignment, new beginnings, and heaven's order being established on earth. When you type it, you're declaring, my life is in alignment, my season is shifting, my provision is prophetic. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. And in this becoming, every need will be met. Every debt will bow to provision. Every lie will fall in the face of God's truth over your life. You are not empty. You are not forgotten. You are not being teased with promises, you are being ushered into them. This is the era of fulfilled vision. So stand tall, lift your head, release the old soundtrack of fear, lack, and delay. God has turned the page, and the new headline is this: provision has caught up with purpose. Comment 1111 to agree. You will fund kingdom projects. Chosen one. This was never just about your bills. It was never just about getting out of debt or affording comfort. From the very beginning, God's plan was far greater than personal relief. It was divine release. You are not being blessed merely to breathe easier. You are being resourced to build what hell cannot tear down. There's a reason your process has been so intense. A reason the attacks were so persistent. Because you were never just called to receive, you were called to resource. You are a carrier of kingdom finance. And that kind of calling carries weight. It requires purity. It demands obedience. It goes beyond comfort and into commission. You're not just being trusted with money. You're being trusted with movement. Movements that rescue the forgotten, that build safe places for healing, that fund outreaches no one else will touch, that raise up other chosen ones still buried under fear and shame. Movements that don't just make noise, they make impact. And the funding for them? It's flowing through you. This is why God trained you in the shadows. Why you were entrusted with small things that no one else saw. He was watching how you handled the unnoticed, so he could elevate you into the unshakable. He needed to know that when the zeros increased, your heart wouldn't shrink. That when the influence rose, your worship wouldn't waver. That when the overflow came, you'd still bend low before his feet. You are not a consumer in this generation. You are a conduit. The blessing will pass through you, not just stop on you. You'll live in houses you didn't build, but you'll also fund houses for those who have no roof. You'll sit at tables you once prayed for, but you'll also set tables for the broken, the wounded, the overlooked. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 36, verse 5. The people are bringing more than enough for doing the work the Lord commanded to be done. And that wasn't just a moment. It was a model. God stirred the hearts of the people not just to give, but to fund the entire vision. And you, chosen one, are about to step into that same grace. It wasn't a fundraiser, it was a response to glory. They gave because God was in it. That same stirring is happening now. You won't give from pressure, but from presence. You'll feel it rise in your spirit. This is what I was created to fund. And when you release it, heaven will multiply it beyond what you can count. You'll know exactly where to sow, who to lift, what to plant, because your spirit has been trained to recognize divine ground. You won't be throwing money for applause. You'll be assigning resources with prophetic precision, and it won't drain you. It won't stress you. It won't confuse you, because the same God who provides will also instruct. You'll feel the nudge, the whisper, the unshakable conviction to release. And when you obey, the ripple will reach farther than you imagine. Entire families changed, generations shifted, chains broken, ministries birthed, not because you gave randomly, but because you gave by revelation. This is how the kingdom advances, not just through pulpits, but through provision, not just through sermons, but through stewardship. And you are part of the financial army. Heaven is activating in this hour. You may not have known it, but your warfare qualified you. Your lack trained you. Your integrity elevated you. Now, God is handing you assignments with funding attached. There will be moments where you fund what no one else understands. That's okay. It's not their vision, it's yours. God gave it to you, and He'll give you the means to fulfill it. You don't need public approval. You need private obedience. The storehouses of heaven are open, but they're not open for indulgence, they're open for impact. And God is looking for those who will handle it with clean hands and focused hearts. You are one of them. You'll build without begging. You'll fund without fearing. You'll support others without resenting, because you've been trained to see money as assignment, not identity. Let that settle in your spirit. God is not giving you wealth to prove anything. He's giving it to do something. And what you do will echo through eternity. Chosen one, this is your mantle, not just to receive, but to release, to build, to send, to establish, to shift economies wherever your feet land. Because you are not just blessed, you are appointed, and you will fund what the kingdom is birthing in this generation. Not someday now. You've passed the heart test. Chosen one. This was never just about what you could build with your hands. It was always about what you carried in your heart. Before God ever released increase, He examined your motives. Before heaven opened provision, it tested purity. Because the kingdom does not elevate talent alone, it elevates those whose hearts beat in rhythm with the King. And you, though flawed, though tested, though weary have passed, you were tempted to grow bitter, to resent those who seemed to prosper without struggle, to question why your road was steeper, narrower, slower. But in every moment of delay, God was watching, not just your actions, but your intentions. You didn't let jealousy take root. You didn't let pride disguise itself as ambition. And that silence, that season of nothingness, it was heaven's examination room. You didn't know it then, but now you will. You were being weighed for worthiness. Not worthiness in your own strength, but in your willingness to say yes when it cost you, your willingness to stay small when everything in you wanted visibility, your willingness to forgive when it felt unjust. God was looking for a steward, not a showman, and that's why you were chosen. Many have the voice, but few have the vessel. You were never just a carrier of sound. You were always meant to be a carrier of substance. Now the season is shifting from testing to trusting. Heaven has deemed you trustworthy, and that word carries weight. It means doors will open, not because you demanded them, but because your heart is ready for them. It means increase will arrive not to impress others, but to uplift the mission. It means your name will be mentioned in rooms you've never stepped into, not for fame, but for function. You've passed the test not because you got it all right, but because when you got it wrong, you repented, you course-corrected, you didn't hide from God, you returned to Him. You kept your heart soft, you kept your spirit open, and heaven sees the difference between someone who stumbles and someone who strays. It was never about perfection, it was about posture. We find in the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 16, verse 7, man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. God looked, and He saw yours. He saw the hidden pain, the quiet offerings, the times you chose honor when revenge would have felt easier, the times you celebrated others while secretly grieving your own waiting, the nights you wrestled with purpose and still whispered, "Use me." Heaven marked those moments. They weren't wasted. They were recorded. They were not invisible to heaven. They were incense, rising from your life as a fragrance of surrender. What you did in secret will now be shouted in victory, not by you, but by the fruit that follows you. And now that your heart has passed through the furnace, your hands are being activated to build what others abandoned, to love what others judged, to fund what others feared. The wealth that's coming isn't just a reward, it's a tool, a divine resource to put into motion what God whispered to you in the dark. You'll notice something shift in your environment. The testing season was about being isolated, but the trusting season will bring alignment, strategic people, prophetic instructions, unforced favor. Everything will begin to orbit around your assignment, not by striving, but by divine coordination. And you'll carry it all with humility, because your heart has been shaped by fire. The kind of fire that doesn't destroy but defines. You know what it feels like to be empty. That's why you'll never look down on someone in their lack. You've walked through rejection. That's why you'll never gatekeep access. You've been misunderstood. That's why you'll create safe spaces for the broken. Everything you endured was forming your heart for this harvest. And this is not a seasonal harvest. It's sustainable. Not a flash of breakthrough, but a lifestyle of divine trust and ongoing release, because God knows now. You won't forget who gave it. You won't worship the gift. You won't turn provision into pride. You'll keep bringing your heart back to the altar again and again. Chosen one. When God searched the earth for someone to trust, He found you. And now your hands will carry what your heart has been prepared to hold. There are no more delays, no more proving, no more striving. Just the quiet confidence of one who has been tested by fire and trusted by God. You've come too far to hide now. Chosen one. The mantle on your life isn't just for private victory, it's for public impact. What God has been doing in the secret place is now ready to be revealed. You were hidden for a reason. You were processed in silence. But now the time of unveiling has come, not for performance, but for purpose. This is not the hour to shrink. This is not the season to second-guess your voice, your mission, or your identity. You carry too much light. You carry too much fire. And what you carry is desperately needed in this generation. The overflow that's coming isn't just financial, it's influence, divine positioning, kingdom exposure. You won't be hidden much longer. God is about to amplify your sound, extend your reach, and multiply your impact. But with this next level comes a new charge. Stay vocal. Stay visible. Stay available. This isn't about fame. This is about flow. Your words will unlock others. Your breakthrough will become someone else's blueprint. Your testimony will be the signal someone else's spirit needed to keep believing. That's why God's been so intentional with you. That's why your process has been slower. Not because you were forgotten, but because He was fortifying your foundation. You are not a copy. You are not a trend. You are a torchbearer. Your presence alone disrupts darkness. When you speak, atmospheres shift. When you walk in obedience, territory changes. When you share what God has done, faith ignites. That's why it's not optional to stay silent now. You're not being promoted for comfort. You're being positioned for assignment. Scripture says in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 2, preach the word, be ready in season, and out of season, reprove, rebuke, and exhort, with all patience and teaching. Chosen one. The season is now. This is your in season. This is the moment God is calling you to rise boldly, not just in prayer closets, but in public spaces. In your calling, in your creativity, in your communication. You are not just anointed in private, you're effective in public. There are platforms assigned to your voice, not to elevate your ego, but to lift the weary. There are rooms waiting for your story, not to celebrate you, but to bring clarity to others. You will walk into places that once felt too big and realize you were always supposed to be there. But hear this, heaven isn't looking for flashy voices. Heaven is using faithful ones. You've been faithful with the unseen, faithful with the little, faithful in the waiting. And now, God is trusting you with reach, and He's asking one thing of you. Be loud with what He's done. Don't apologize for the blessing. Don't downplay the breakthrough. Don't sanitize your story to make it more palatable. Tell it like it happened. Because every time you tell the truth, chains break off someone else. If this word is piercing your spirit, if you know God is speaking directly to your now moment, don't keep it to yourself. Like this word, share it. Subscribe to stay aligned. Your engagement isn't about boosting numbers, it's about building momentum. Every act of obedience has a ripple. You never know who's hanging on by a thread, waiting for a whisper from heaven, and your simple click could be the key that unlocks their faith again. And while you're at it, drop a word in the comments. Comment, "I choose my crown." Say it like you mean it. Let all of heaven and every watching demon know you're done hiding. You're done questioning. You're done forfeiting. The wilderness was necessary, but the wilderness is over. And now, you're walking in your kingly assignment. You're not a background character in someone else's story. You are the chosen vessel in yours. And this world, it needs what you carry. The poems, the sermons, the books, the businesses, the messages, the mentorship, the movement, the love, the wisdom, the fire. It's time to release it. You will not be known by your pain. You will be known by what you built from it. Every platform God opens from this point forward will be consecrated, protected, effective. Because it's not about spotlight, it's about strategy. God is being strategic with you. You're not everywhere, because you're assigned somewhere. And when you show up, it's not to blend in, it's to shift something. The authority that's resting on you now will not be shaken by opinions. You are not here to entertain. You are here to ignite. So lift your voice. Share boldly. Speak what God tells you. Stay planted in the flow of these words. This movement, this moment, God isn't just stirring your spirit, He's launching your legacy. This isn't another post, it's a prophetic push. So if your spirit is awake, if your heart is beating fast, if tears are welling in your eyes right now, then don't scroll. Engage, like, share, comment, and subscribe. You're not just receiving, you're releasing. And trust me, the right people will find this. Because God is not just calling you, He's gathering us. The anointing makes rich without sorrow. There is a kind of abundance that doesn't cost your peace, a kind of increase that doesn't drain your soul, a level of blessing that does not come through striving, but through alignment. And chosen one, that is the kind of wealth God is bringing into your life. You've already tasted what the world offers, opportunities that looked promising but left you exhausted, doors that opened but required parts of you to be silenced in order to stay, financial gain that came with emotional weight, spiritual conflict, or compromise. But now, the Father is saying, enough of that. The time for toiling is over. The season of heavy blessing is ending. You are stepping into what Proverbs calls the blessing of the Lord, which adds no sorrow to it. This means what God gives, He protects. What heaven funds, heaven sustains. Because the oil on your life is expensive, and God doesn't waste oil. As the ancient words recorded in Proverbs, chapter 10, verse 22, still echo today. The blessing of the Lord makes rich. And He adds, no sorrow with it, only joy remains. You won't lose sleep trying to keep what God gave you in peace. You won't have to explain away divine provision. You won't have to make deals behind closed doors just to keep momentum. This new realm of provision flows from a place of rest, not desperation. And this rest is not laziness. It's confidence. You've learned how to move with wisdom. You've learned to wait when God says wait, and move when He says move. You've been trained to discern opportunity from distraction. You don't need to chase favor anymore, you attract it now. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind." That sound mind is your compass. That love is your guide. That power is your covering. And in this next chapter, you will walk in all three, not as a theory, but as a lifestyle. God has watched how you've handled pressure, how you've responded to lack, how you've treated people while under stress. And now, heaven knows this, you can be trusted with peace. Some people use blessing as an escape. You'll use it as a platform to serve. Others drown in what they begged for. You'll steward it without drowning, because peace is part of your portion. This is the difference between worldly riches and divine abundance. Worldly wealth often costs more than it gives. It may fill your account, but drain your soul. It may elevate your image, but fracture your relationships. But divine wealth, it comes with joy, with strategy, with wisdom, with fruit that doesn't rot overnight. You are entering a place where your increase will match your capacity. You won't be overwhelmed. You'll be prepared. You won't just survive blessing, you'll be built for it. Because this isn't sudden promotion without preparation. This is the result of refinement. There's a stillness coming over your life now. A holy stillness. Not because nothing is happening, but because everything is falling into place. You'll notice you're no longer reacting, you're responding. No longer rushing, you're receiving. No longer hustling, you're holding what was once out of reach. God's blessing won't add chaos to your calendar. It will clarify your steps. You won't have to guess where to go next. Your path will unfold in peace. You won't have to fight for influence. Your name will be mentioned in rooms you didn't even know existed. You won't have to beg for connections. The right ones will find you. Already aligned. Because where the anointing flows, friction ceases. And this peace is not fragile. It doesn't depend on conditions. It doesn't fade when bills show up or when people misunderstand. This is the peace that's born from knowing who your provider is. It's rooted in trust, in covenant, in the quiet assurance that if God brought you this far, He's already gone ahead. This is the type of wealth that transforms not just your bank account, but your being. You'll wake up lighter, laugh more freely, dream more clearly. You'll plan without fear. You'll give without guilt. You'll walk in rooms and carry a presence that calms chaos. Because you're not just carrying riches, you're carrying revelation. This is the reward for obedience. This is the fruit of surrender. This is the evidence of being chosen and refined. You've earned nothing, but you've been entrusted with everything. So walk gently, build wisely, move slowly when needed, and swiftly when told. And above all, guard your peace like the treasure it is. Because when the anointing makes you rich, sorrow has no seat at your table. Only goodness and mercy will follow you now. Your cup overflows permanently. This is not a flash of favor. This is not a momentary miracle. This is not just a season. It's a shift in identity. You are not stepping into temporary provision. You are stepping into a permanent position of divine supply, marked by stability, clarity, and covenant authority. Chosen one. What's happening in your life now is the result of unseen endurance. Years of trusting God in silence. sacrifices, no one applauded. Consistency in places where it would have been easier to quit. What you are walking into is not just a blessing, it's a reward. Not earned by works, but recognized by heaven as the result of your unwavering yes. You don't have to prove anything anymore. The fruit will speak for you. You don't have to convince people to see your worth. The overflow will reveal it. God is not just filling your cup, He's causing it to run over. And the overflow is not accidental. It's intentional. It's meant to spill. It's meant to reach. It's meant to bless not only you, but those who come close to you. People will be refreshed simply by proximity to your obedience. This is why the warfare was so loud before the release, because the enemy could smell what was about to pour. But it's too late now. The oil is flowing. The gates are open. The time of almost is finished. You've entered the land of it is done. Oh, and unlike previous breakthroughs, this one will remain. The dryness is over. The scarcity mindset is broken. The days of begging God for just enough are behind you. You're moving into divine rhythm now, one where lack has no voice and fear has no room. Your decisions will no longer be shaped by limits, but by vision. Your prayers will no longer be desperate pleas for survival, but bold declarations of destiny. And this time, your overflow won't just fund a moment. It will sustain a movement. There are people who will come alive again because of what flows through your hands. Projects that will be born. Families that will be restored. Territories that will shift. Not because you're wealthy in the world's eyes, but because you're wealthy in the things of God. In wisdom, in peace, in strategy, in generosity, in discernment, in favor. This is legacy wealth, not just assets, but impact. Not just income, but inheritance. The kind that reaches generations. The kind that rewrites bloodlines. The kind that breaks the cycles your family thought would never end. You are the interruption to dysfunction. The beginning of something your lineage has never seen before. Your overflow is heaven's answer to prayers prayed decades ago. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 23, verse 5. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Then, that is not a poetic image. It's a spiritual reality. Your head has been anointed, not just for beauty, but for burden. You've been marked for leadership, for responsibility, for influence. And God does not anoint without assigning. Your overflowing cup is the evidence that God is sending you, not empty-handed, but fully equipped. You won't need to fight for access. You are the access. You won't need to chase opportunities. You are the opportunity. What was once out of reach is now being placed in your hands, not because you forced it, but because you trusted Him. Your overflow will teach others what obedience produces. They'll ask how it happened. You'll say, I stayed faithful. They'll wonder how you didn't lose your mind in the waiting. You'll say, God kept me. They'll want the formula. You'll give them the truth. It was never about striving. It was about surrender. Chosen one. This overflow will not dry up, because the source is not from this world. The stream is supernatural. The supply is sacred. God is not pouring into you based on economic trends. He is funding your life according to divine covenant. And covenant cannot be cancelled by circumstances. So breathe deep. Rest well. Move forward with boldness. Your days of striving are over. Your cup has been filled, and it will stay full. Not because of effort, but because of alignment. Let the doubters watch. Let the mockers witness. Let the weary draw near, because you are the evidence that when God blesses, He blesses permanently. This is not just your overflow, this is your ordination. Welcome to the rest of your life, one where grace flows freely, and your cup never runs dry. Chosen one, if you made it this far, it's not by chance. It's because your spirit has recognized truth. Your heart has been marked by confirmation. Every word spoken wasn't just content, it was a call, a divine reminder of who you really are and what you are called to carry. Heaven is not just speaking to you, it is trusting you. You are not here to blend in. You were never meant to stay stuck. You were born to disrupt darkness, to carry fire, to release provision, and to walk in overflow. And now, the gate has been opened, the release has begun, and your only job now is to move with it. Let this be your declaration from this moment forward. I am chosen. I am trusted. I am funded. I am free. If this entire journey has stirred your spirit, confirmed your prayers, or lit a fire deep in your soul, don't let it end here. Like this message, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that lack is not their portion. Comment your takeaway. Below your agreement might be the exact spark someone else needs to rise. And above all, subscribe to stay connected, not just for another message, but for a movement, because this is not the end. It's the unfolding. Heaven is still speaking, and your next instruction might come in the next word, the next post, the next message sent in perfect timing. So stay connected, stay ready, and stay reminded you are God's chosen one. And what's coming next is greater than anything behind. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Let the world know the chosen ones have awakened.